कृपया लक्ष द्या. जयपुर वाया कोटा.
कृपया ध्यान आपो अहमदाबाद.
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत.
ലക്നൗ ജംഗ്ഷൻ
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವವರೆಗೆ
Hyderabad Bhattacharjya Express পরবর্তী স্টেশন নেতাজি ভবন. कृपया ध्यान दियो.
Well, it's a double-header Super Sunday, and you all know what happens on a double-header Super Sunday. We come in earlier to talk about the next match. We will be discussing what happens with RCB KKR as well. But Punjab take on GT. That's the second game of this Sunday evening, and lot to play for both these games. I'm Saiyami Kher, and I have Mr. Bhattacharjya and Simon Doull with me. Simon, Joyda, these games are very important. This game is very important for both the teams. 8 and 9 take on each other. So a crucial win for both of them. They're both looking for those 2 points.
No, absolutely. I think it's a big, big game, and it's a situation. See, Punjab is one of those sides who's come very close very often. All their losses have been in the last over. So they've just got a lot of their pieces right, but they haven't managed to put enough right to win consistently. So that's important. For them, it's a very important match. GT was playing well, came back, and then just collapsed in the last match. And they'll be looking at that and wondering, we just need to get our show on board as soon as possible. So crucial match. It's safe to say whoever's losing today is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, GT get to 8 points. All of a sudden, they're right in amongst that middle muddle, as Gaurav likes to call it. And they're still every chance. But a loss for Punjab, I think it spells a lot of trouble for them. They put themselves in RCB's situation, basically, where they're going to have to win pretty much every game. They just... Winning is a habit, losing is a habit. And if you don't know how to get across the line, if you can't quite figure out a way to get over the line in those tight situations, it can affect you. And I think that's just where they're at the moment. They've just lost too many tight ones, close ones, and they're kind of not sure how to win.
But as a team, losing those tight, close ones, is that something which kind of shatters your confidence? Or what happened to Gujarat where they were bundled up for 89?
You can take a really bad performance if you bounce back. It's when you continually lose those close ones. Like the really bad performances, they can just be an aberration. So you just put them aside and carry on, move on to the next one. When you just can't quite finish a game off, when you get to the last over time and time again, and all of a sudden you find yourself on the wrong end of the winning streak, it becomes a concern more than one really bad performance. So I think that's kind of where Punjab are at the moment.
I couldn't agree more. Exactly what used to happen in KKR. If you get blown away, you get blown away. It happens to every team. It happens to the best of teams because this format is such that one day one guy goes on a run, somebody takes 3-4 wickets, anything. It can change very fast and you can get blown out of a game. Nobody minds those. It's when you're close and you have a lot of what-ifs decisions that you've made, questionable batting, questionable bowling decisions, or just one edge going the wrong way. That's when you start to question yourself, why am I getting so close but not getting over the line? And I think that's where Punjab is. Punjab is got a lot of good pieces, lot of performances here, but they're not adding up on one day to cross you, get you across the line. Very good analogies. Sometimes you'll see in tennis, a guy will win 7-6, 7-6, 2-6 against him, and he's actually won less sets than the person opposite, but he's won 3 sets. And less games. But he's actually lost 3 sets. And that's what's happening. Punjab is putting here.
Or it's just the tiebreakers that they're losing. They're losing the tiebreakers.
Exactly. They're not getting everything together on the same day. And I think that's what 1 or 2 wins will energize them because they're not a bad team. And as Simon may have been saying throughout this tournament, all the teams in terms of pure talent, there's not very much to choose between them.
All right, Punjab have won the toss and they've decided to bat first. We'll have a look at the playing 11s. Shikhar is not fit yet, so Sam Curran's still the captain, and Simon, they've gone unchanged. Like we said, they're taking it to the 19th over and then losing it. They've gotten a whole lot of things correct, but they're just not being able to go past the line. But this is an unchanged playing 11.
Yeah, and Sam Curran has mentioned that it's the 3rd time they've used the surface, so it might be a little bit worn, hence batting first. Taking the due into account later, they might think it's slightly more difficult to bowl, but getting runs on the board and batting first on a used pitch might be to their advantage. So that's the reason he's decided to do that. And sometimes they just do get a little bit worn, a little bit tired, and even in the second innings under lights, it might might be a little bit difficult. So that's his reasoning at the toss behind having to bat first. And I like an unchanged Punjab side because it doesn't happen very often.
You're not used to that at all. You're not used to it at all.
Yeah. We'll have a look at GT's playing 11. I think you had called it yesterday, Joyda, and they've heard you because Umar Zai is in. This is their bowling 11, so the two changes, Sai Kishore in here as well.
Absolutely. I think Sai Kishore was expected, but Umar Zai was very important because Spencer Johnson at the end of the day cannot bat. He was not giving them enough at the bat. Their batting was not doing enough. So that extra person in the middle who can open the bowling as well, give you some overs, swings it both ways, I think important and can give you something with the bat as well. That balance, look, when they got Umar Zai into the team, they got him as, you can't say like for like, but as good a replacement as possible for Hardik Pandya, somebody who does that, both those things. And I think now he disappointed in a couple of matches and they went back to their theory of, a completely the best bowling side possible. But I think they're looking for balance now, and this is an important match, away, if they get this win, they'd fancy their chances. They think, Punjab hasn't gotten across the line too often. 4-4, you're in the middle of the mix and anything can happen from there.
Well, Punjab is batting first, and a major concern for them this season has been the top order. Even for Gujarat, actually, there has been Gill who's fired on and off, but if we see the numbers here, they are at the bottom there. So the concern has been the top order for both these teams.
Yeah, both the sides. And when you look at the average is not great, or it's poor to be fair, but it's the strike rates. And you look at what other teams are doing, the top sides in the competition, especially Hyderabad, Rajasthan, Kolkata, Mumbai. I mean, 159, 160, 180, 146, all of those numbers down to Lucknow's numbers are very good. Even Delhi are very good. Chennai, we just kind of get used to that. They generally play more often than not in lower scoring games because they play more often at Chepauk. So, but those numbers for both these sides tonight are pretty poor at the top, average and strike rate. So they're not getting off to great starts and they're losing wickets consistently as well.
And Joyda, Livingston's been a major concern for them because we've seen what the top order for Punjab has been. It's just not been clicking, and he's one overseas player which really needed to click for them.
Absolutely. In fact, everything has happened in that respect. That sort of all-rounder who can give them a couple of overs, but also can bat, power strike in the middle order. They had Livingston. Then Livingston didn't deliver for them. Livingston then got injured. And they got Sikandar Raza in to try and fill that exact spot and say that. And Sikandar Raza didn't work for them. Now they've gone back to Livingston and they're saying, okay, we're going to live or die by this. But so far, for the money that they've paid for him, for the kind of expectations, and he is a top-class international bat, he's just not given them enough.
But Simon, is it just that one game that needs to click for someone like a Livingston, and then he's a confidence player, which kind of he carries on with that one game, which has happened, but he's not got like the big scores?
Yeah, he is that kind of player. I mean, last two seasons, I think he's been striking 162 and 180 with decent runs. So that's been the issue for him this year. Well, there's the numbers there. That massive season in 2022, 2023 was decent with a good average and a very good strike rate. A couple of 50s there, 350s, but averages, down since the last edition, 40 innings only, 40 innings, which is a huge sample size for just 3 half centuries. So everything's just gone downhill a little bit for Liam Livingstone, and he's had a couple of injuries, has struggled to come back, and it's just a confidence thing for him. But he's that sort of player that, like you say, 1 or 2 balls out of the middle of the bat, and he gets on a roll and he can be away. But gee, they need him. They need him to big time. And what he offers with the ball, I think, is just as crucial. And you heard from Sam Curran, the slowish type surface. Maybe he plays a part tonight with the ball.
But Joyda, if only Ashutosh and Shashank had that support from the top order, they would be up there in the points table, because both of them have been so good for Punjab, but they've just not had the support up top.
They're like the New York firefighters. They're there every day. They're there to the rescue. They come out there. Sometimes the fire is just too much of a fire has been left by the others. Too much of a mess has been left by the others for them to clear up. But they have been absolutely amazing. And the one question you have to ask yourself is 5 or 6 too low for them, given the kind of form they are in? What you're also seeing consistently is that Prabhsimran up top, it's just not giving them enough. They've tried Curran on top. See, you've got to give Russo a chance because you've just given him one game. He's got a decent delivery. It can happen. You've got to give him a couple more innings. But
that Bumrah delivery was pretty unplayable. Exactly. You can't come in and get that kind of a delivery. It's unfair.
I mean, that's the point. At least you can't drop him on that basis. Definitely. So You've got to give him that chance. But I think, for me, Prabhsimran just hasn't done it for them. And they tried a Tharva tie there, it didn't work. I feel somewhere they're missing that top order bat. And I actually thought the other way for them to go was, even though Bairstow was off form, perhaps have a situation where you say, okay, put 2 international batsmen there and see what they can give you. But they've gone with this, and let's see whether it turns out for them or not. I think that's what, if their opening pair, their top 3 don't give them enough, nothing's going to be enough.
That would have been their pre-season chat. Shikhar and Johnny Bairstow. I mean, you want 400 runs apiece from those 2.
Absolutely.
You get that in a season, and then Ashutosh and Shashank are putting the icing on the cake. They're not building the cake.
Yes.
And at the moment, that's what they're having to do, because there's been no runs from the top order, or a very sparse amount of runs from the top order, and that's been a big concern.
Well, Joyda, Simon, I've been looking at my phone all the time. I'm looking at the Cricbuzz app, and RCB need 35 of 16. They have just lost a wicket, and now Karan Sharma and DK are in. Before we get to this match, I wanted to give you all this update. We'll talk about Gujarat's bowling. We've spoken about how Punjab's batting hasn't really fired. But even with Gujarat's bowling, when someone like a Mohammad Shami is injured, you feel like 2 bowlers might come in and be able to fill those big shoes, but clearly it hasn't been enough, because they haven't been able to fill those big shoes of Mohammad Shami.
No, they haven't. And I think Omarzai is a good inclusion tonight, and glad to see him back in full fitness. He's a wicket-taking option. He swings the brand new ball. Bowl him 2 overs at least in the power play. If it swings and he's having success, bowl him 3.
Yes.
Bowl him 3 in the power play, because you've got guys who can bowl at the back end, particularly in Mohit Sharma. No issues with him at the back end. So they've got death bowling options. I just think they need Omarzai in that power play to take wickets for them. And if they can get a couple of wickets, it really brings Noor and Rashid into the game more through the middle. When you've got to go after those guys, it makes it a lot more difficult. But if you're going after them with wickets in hand, then the opposition are probably in a slightly better position.
Well, Joyda, Omarzai is a like-for-like replacement for Hardik. And with Shami out, they've tried to fill those shoes with Umesh Yadav, Mohit Sharma, Johnson. And Rashid spoke about this. He said that, with Shami in the team, he used to get those early wickets. They used to build the pressure, which used to help me as a spinner to come on later, which hasn't quite happened for him.
Absolutely. Look, I actually have quite liked the fact that they've given Sandeep Warrior a chance, because he seemed to have a little bit of fire. Obviously, that beautiful seam position and late swing, you're not going to get. I mean, that he's an all-time great. I mean, Shami is one of the greats of our game. But he's still giving you something, and I think what they need up front, which he's giving them, is aggression. And Mohit can bowl well at the death. I think that's the key for them. If Omarzai can just come in and chip in with a couple of early wickets. Early wickets is key to the GT game plan. They play according, they're a wicket-taking team. And as we were discussing, Simon and me were discussing, this whole tournament from being a wicket economy game has become a wicket-taking game, because now with the extra bat, you cannot restrict teams. The only way to restrict teams is to get wickets. So wickets become more and more important to you as the time goes on. And I think that's what Gujarat is missing, wicket-taking up front.
Well, let's have a look at the impact list. If you can have a look at Punjab's impact list first, they are going to be batting first. So hopefully, in all probability, they'll get in a bowler. Who do you see coming in, Simon?
Well, on the surface, if you're thinking about what Sam Curran has talked about, Rahul Chahar is definitely an option to come into the side with a little bit of spin later on. So it's probably the way they would go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think unless they've got a batting collapse, if they have a batting collapse, you can expect, one of Atharva Taide or Harpreet to walk out.
Yeah.
They are the batters just in case. So my also sense of seeing those kind of options out there gives you a sense that I think the dressing room out there is telling them, dugout is telling them to go hard.
Yeah.
I think they want to go hard, set big totals, and I think that's the game plan, absolutely. If a lot fall, then put in that extra batter.
Let's have a look at Gujarat's impact list. They are, they will be getting Sai Sudarshan in. That's the clear swap, which if all goes well, it looks like Sai Sudarshan will be in.
Yeah, interesting. I'm just wondering whether, Abhinav, Sai Sudarshan was, their banker up front. He was playing all the games. So is he carrying a bit of an injury or whatever? Why they're not having, because he's a pretty decent fielder as well. So I'm just surprised to see him there. But now often teams are using that tactic that if a player's just hurting a bit, give him a bit of rest, just allow him to bat, do his thing.
But Simon, after a team gets all out for like an 89, you're clearly very low on confidence after that game. Do they just forget what's happened, come out fresh, or how do they bounce back from that?
Yeah, and that's the thing we were saying. It's an aberration. You put it down to just a bad day, and they're kind of easier to forget than close wins are. They're easier to get over because everybody knows. They walk back into that dressing room, you've had a stinker. It's just been that kind of day when nobody's had a good day, everyone's underperformed, and you can easily just wash that one to one side and just get on with it. They would have trained well and look forward to it, and they get an opportunity. That's the great thing about this tournament. Unless you sort of get that, unless you have a bad game, a really bad game,
and
just before your week's before your week's break.
I know exactly.
That's you kind of want to bounce back 2 days later, and that's the opportunity they've got. So I'm sure they'll be looking forward to it. You won't see that again.
I'll just tell you one thing, and we've said it before in this show. Good coaches, okay, after a game like that happened last time, they won't have any team meeting at all. Let's go away. And what they will try and do also is that if there's, say, a gap of 2 days before the next game, they will keep the team as busy as possible. Not necessarily practicing.
But not cricket. Not
necessarily practicing. We've got to go there here, we've got to do this, we're doing this team activity together. Not allowing them to think about it or brood about it. Just take their mind away from it and try and get into the next game as early as possible. The coaches that I've seen, and I've seen a couple of World Cup winning coaches, the biggest shouting that I've ever seen them give is after victories, amazingly. Because that's the time that a team is receptive to hearing it. And they'll turn around and say, you did this, we won, but look at what you did. And that's the time a team is willing to listen because they've won and they're happy. When they're dying, there's no point whipping a dead horse. It's no point.
But also, for Gujarat, yes, they'll want to forget and go and do other activities, not focus so much on the cricket. But it's been a concern throughout this tournament. Besides Gill and Sai Sudarshan, no one really has fired. Look at David. Look at these numbers here: Miller, Tewatia, Rashid, Vijay Shankar. So no one really is fired besides the two up top.
No, and really only Hardik Pandya is missing from their batting lineup, isn't he? I mean, he's the only one that's sort of not in the batting lineup. We talked about Mohammad Shami, but I mean, Shubman's had a good year. It's a decent way. Halfway through the tournament, 263, on track for a 500-run tournament. From an opening batting point of view, that's a very good season. That's a good time of it. But nobody else is doing anything. Miller's been obviously out with that injury, has struggled when he's been there for the most part. Saha was getting them starts, flying starts. He hasn't been able to do that this year so far. And we talked about Sai Sudarshan. They just haven't had enough power. When you look through other teams, look at the teams that are successful. Look at what Riyan Paraga's done, Butler, Sanju there. You look at what Hyderabad are doing. You look at what Chennai have done, relatively well. Look at those teams towards the top and look at the numbers for their top 4 and 5 batters, and there'll be stark difference to what GT are producing outside of Shubman.
Well, they tried replacing Ridhiman Saha with Wade, but then that kind of just didn't work for the team composition.
Exactly. What happens is if you play an international player out there, they love to play about Noor and Rashid.
Yes.
If you want to give yourself another international bowler and you want to keep Miller in the squad, who are you going to sacrifice? And they really like the fact that Noor and Rashid have to bowl together. I mean, it's something that they've set upon. And look, again, whenever we look at that, whenever you look at GT's decision, they don't seem to be getting it right. The question you ask yourself is, they won a title and they reached a final in their first 2 years. So clearly they know some things about how their team is structured and how they play.
All right, so the toss update again is Punjab have won the toss. They will be batting first. Now we need to quickly do our predictions. GK has got 2 out of 2 and Simon has got...
I got the last one right.
Let's clap for Simon.
Yes, Simon.
Like Pommy said, the humility goes out of the building when the prediction game comes on, doesn't it? You got one and one. Simon's got one, so now I need to get one. Just to make
so your start, why don't you go for it?
Come on.
I'm going to go with Punjab batting first. 189.
I had 187 in my head, but I'm not going to do that to you. I'll go a little bit lower, according to Sam Curran's sort of talk at the toss, and go 178. I'll just reverse the 8-7 and go to 7-8.
Okay, and what are you?
189.
203.
Ooh, you're going up there.
You're going high. Okay.
All right, when we were doing our guessing and predictions, DK has just gotten out. Everyone at Cricbuzz always cheers for him, except for the KKR fans. But 21 needed in the last 6. So I think we should go quickly and watch the last over because this is turning out to be a nail-biting finish. We know how Punjab love going into their last overs, so maybe we have 2 nail-biting finishes. We will be giving you all the updates at the 10-over point at the Cricbuzz Combox, so we will see you all there very soon.
Jaipur via Kota.
कृपया ध्यान आपो अहमदाबाद
दिल्ली में आपका स्वागत लखनऊ जंक्शन
ನಿಲ್ದಾಣದ ಕಡೆಗೆ ಹೊರಟಿರುವ ರೈಲು
Hyderabad Superfast Express পরবর্তী স্টেশন নেতাজি ভবন। कृपया ध्यान दें